We didn't think it could be possible that snakes could be more terrifying than dinosaurs.
King Cobra, the most magnificent, regal snake in the world.
But after learning about these snakes, or nope ropes as we like to call them, our minds will be as changed as yours.
And there she is. The green anaconda.
From the world's largest venomous snake to one that can move at 12.5 miles per hour, here are 15 snakes that are scarier than dinosaurs. Number 15. Titanoboa. Knowing that the snake named Titanoboa translates to Titanic Boa leaves no doubt in our mind that this snake is scarier than dinosaurs.
This was the largest predator on the planet for about 10 million years after the extinction of the dinosaurs.
Fortunately for us, though, it also went the way of the dinosaurs. Extinct. The Titanoboa was thought to be one of the largest snakes ever to live. It existed during the 10 million year period after the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event from Middle to Late Paleocene epoch. Fossils have been found in northeastern Colombia, and these show that the snake once grew to about 50 feet long and with a hefty weight of over 2,500 pounds. Imagine that slithering up your toilet bowl. From what experts have been able to work out, they inhabited the tropical rainforests of South America and lived with giant turtles and Crocodilomorpha. It can be hard for some people to comprehend just how large a Titanoboa would have been. So, a full-scale model at 48 feet long was produced and displayed in the Grand Central Terminal in Midtown Manhattan, New York. This model was used as a promotion for a show called Titanoboa Monster Snake, which was on TV in 2012. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now, or Slenderman will come from under your bed while you're sleeping. Number 14. Iranian spider-tailed horned viper. If you were a bird, then you would definitely find the Iranian spider-tailed horned viper scarier than a dinosaur. For one, it camouflages itself so beautifully into its environment that you wouldn't spot it until it's too late. And secondly, it's not scared to launch a vicious attack in the name of a snack. This snake is endemic to western Iran and was first identified as a new species in 2006. What first drew researchers to it was its tail. It has a bulb-like tip and long, drooping scales that make it look like a spider, hence the name of Iranian spider-tailed horned viper. It also has scales between its horns, then scales on the side of its tail to look like an arthropod's appendages. Scientists believe the spider-looking tail wasn't there by accident, but rather as a lure to attract birds. And that theory was proven right with video footage of an attack. There has also been evidence of a lark bird found in the stomach of a specimen. This venomous snake might not be too much of a threat to humans, but it is definitely the creature of nightmares for any bird that crosses its path. Number 13. Green anaconda. There is very little to no evidence to suggest that humans are on the menu for green anacondas. Still, that doesn't mean they aren't scarier than dinosaurs. After all, unlike dinosaurs, green anacondas are still around, and they're huge.
There she is. The green anaconda.
They are the world's heaviest and longest snake, thought to be around 17 feet long. But there are also unconfirmed reports of some up to 40 feet. Given the curiosity around the longest green anaconda, there is a significant cash reward available for anyone who can catch one over 30 feet long. They also weigh up to around 154 pounds on average. Green anacondas are olive green with black blotches and live in South America. They are excellent swimmers and often live in swamps, streams, and tropical rainforests. They're a bit awkward on land, but get them in the water and they're up there with Michael Phelps. These snakes eat almost anything, from fish and birds through to reptiles and mammals. They are even known to be cannibals, with many cases of large females eating smaller males. See one of these in person and you'll likely want to run away screaming. Number 12. Spitting Cobra. It's rude to spit, but you won't be in any hurry to tell the spitting cobra that, for it's likely to blind you for your troubles. The black-necked spitting cobra is a sub-Saharan African snake that grows up to around 7.2 feet long. They are black or gray and have yellow or red sides with a black neckband. To look at, they're scary enough, but that's even before you get to see their personality. They are far from pleasant. We're pleased to report that they don't eat humans and prefer to dine on mice. But that doesn't mean they don't enjoy inflicting harm on humans. They can inject venom from their fangs at a distance of 23 feet and are reasonably accurate with it too.
It more or less chucks it by lunging forward.
This neurotoxic venom is a skin irritant and can cause blistering and inflammation. And if that's not uncomfortable enough, untreated venom in the eye can result in permanent blindness. They're also not afraid to give the odd bite or two to those who get too close as well. If you leave them alone, then they will likely leave you alone. But there's no other way to say it. The spitting cobra is as scary, if not more frightening, than dinosaurs. Number 11. Gigantophus. When you hear about the Gigantophus, you'll be glad it's extinct. Not only that, but you will be convinced that it was definitely scarier than dinosaurs, even the man-eating ones. This snake was around 33 feet long and was the largest living species of any at the time. The Gigantophus, with a very fitting name, lived around 40 million years ago in the vicinity of where Egypt and Algeria are in the southern Sahara. If their diet is anything to go by, you know they were a snake you shouldn't mess with. Their diet consisted of proboscideans, which were pig-sized cousins of the modern-day elephant. They also dined on large reptiles like crocodiles, as if they were snack food. Scientists seem to believe that the Gigantophus was an aquatic snake that would hide until it saw its dinner coming, then it would strike. It was also more like pythons and boas than other snakes. If pictures of this snake look familiar, then there's a reason for that. They featured in the 1970 movie called When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth, and in the video game Fossil Fighters Champions. You may have even seen them in the documentary David Attenborough's Natural History Museum Alive. Number 10. The King Cobra. Sure, some pretty terrifying dinosaurs have featured in the world's history, but do you know what's even scarier? The King Cobra. Okay, so it's more frightening because it's not extinct like the dinosaur, but also because it's a vicious reptile that takes no prisoners. The king cobra is one of the most venomous snakes in the world, and typically grows up to between 12 and 18 feet long. They are most commonly found in the forested areas of India, Southeast Asia, the Philippines, and Indonesia. It's at this point that you need to cross those parts of the world off your travel list, because you do not want to come across the king cobra. When they feel threatened, they can lift up to a third of their body off the ground and lunge forward in an attack. They also flare out their hoods and hiss with such ferocity that they sound like a growling dog. If at this point you don't get the hint that the cobra doesn't want to play, then you will when it attacks. Even though their venom isn't the most potent in the world, it's not far off. 2/10 of a fluid ounce in a single bite is enough to bring down an elephant or 20 people. Number 9. Faint-banded sea snake. Given that the faint-banded sea snake only grows up to around 40 inches long, you'd probably scoff at the idea that it's scarier than dinosaurs. But But what dinosaurs are we talking about here? There definitely are dinosaurs that are less fear-evoking than this little critter. The faint-banded sea snake is considered an extremely venomous snake that also goes by the name of Belcher's sea snake. Even though its venom is potent, it's rare for them to attack. Instead, you have to annoy it for quite a while before it reacts. More often than not, the sea snake's victims are fishermen who handle nets and inadvertently find themselves with sea snakes on board. When they attack, only around a quarter of their victims end up with venom in their system. But those who are injected with venom can find themselves up a certain creek without a paddle. Not only can their venom cause death in half an hour, but victims can also experience nausea, vomiting, migraines, abdominal pain, kidney failure, and convulsions before that happens. No monstrous T-Rex would put you through that. Number 8. Black Mamba. There's no comparison when you put a black mamba next to a dinosaur. They might be smaller than dinosaurs at around 14 feet long and 3.5 pounds, but this snake is as lethal as they get.
This black mamba is trapped and nervous.
The black mamba, believe it or not, is brown, but it has blue and black on the inside of its mouth, hence the name. This highly aggressive and lethally venomous snake is not one you want to get on the wrong side of. It's responsible for countless human deaths, and it's reported as the world's deadliest snake. You'll most commonly find the black mamba living in the rocky hills of eastern and southern Africa and in the savannas. They are the longest venomous snake in Africa and one of the fastest. These nimble nope ropes can slither along at up to 12.5 miles per hour. And you're gonna want to pick up your pace, for being attacked by one of these is not at all comfortable. They raise their heads off the ground, spread their neck flap, and hiss. Then, if you don't get the hint, they will repeatedly strike, injecting massive amounts of venom with each strike. Without anti-venom, the attack is almost always fatal. And fast, too. Death comes to those who have been bitten in around 20 minutes. Number 7. The Mongolian Death Worm. When something is called the Mongolian Death Worm, there are no surprises that it's scarier than dinosaurs. After all, it's not exactly the most heartwarming name for an animal. The problem is, no one actually knows whether this animal exists, or if it's something that's been thought up by a cheeky storyteller. We'll tell you what we know, and you can make up your mind by forming your own opinion. British biologist Carl Schuker published a book called The Unexplained, an illustrated guide to the world's paranormal mysteries. This book outlined a potential concealed creature that resembled a large, fat worm in the southern Gobi Desert. That worm supposedly grew up to 3 feet long, was dark red, and had spike-like projections on both ends of its body. According to Carl, it would spend most of its time living under the sand, trying not to be spotted by locals. There are many legends around this worm. In some, it is said that it can kill in many different ways. It might spit a stream of venom that's corrosive and lethal to anything it hits. Others say it can electrocute people from a distance. In reality, no one knows for sure. There have been no photos of it, no footage, and no real-life sightings. We can only assume that if it does exist, it stays away from humans. Number 6. The Saw-Scaled Viper. If you see a snake with a pear-shaped head, vertically elliptical pupils, and rough, serrated scales, then stay far, far away. You might have just come across the saw-scaled viper, and this snake is definitely not your friend. The saw-scaled viper can be one of 8 venomous snake species, and they live in dry savannas and arid regions of Asia, Africa, Arabia, and Sri Lanka. Basically, there's nowhere north of the equator that is safe from the saw-scaled viper.
He's striking to bite every time.
They have a short, thin tail, very rough scales, and they grow up to around 3 feet long. They can also be shades of orange, brown, or gray with dorsal blotches and lateral spots. Take note of these details, for you don't want to identify a saw-scaled viper before it's too late. Once bitten, you can be in big trouble. Localized swelling and pain can occur almost immediately, followed by hemorrhaging and coagulation problems. Hypovolemic shock can then arise, along with internal bleeding and acute kidney failure. To survive, you need to receive anti-venom therapy and IV fluids within hours of the bite. Otherwise, it could very well be game over. Number 5. Scrub Python. You might be wondering how a non-venomous snake could be less terrifying than a dinosaur, but you obviously haven't seen a scrub python up close and personal. And if you had, you might be singing a different tune. Scrub pythons, or the amethystine python as they are also known, are found in Indonesia, Australia, and Papua New Guinea. They are one of 6 of the largest snakes in the world and grow up to around 28 feet long. The more average-sized scrub pythons still exceed 16 feet, so they aren't exactly small. This huge snake's diet consists of rats, bats, and possums. But it's not uncommon to find them feasting on wallabies in Australia too. And you can also add humans to that list, for they are not averse to snacking on them either. Just this year, this ambush predator almost snatched a 4-year-old Queensland boy. Fortunately, the father was able to save him from the 15-foot snake. They may not have venom to hurt you, but when they coil their body around you, it can often have the same outcome. Number 4. Boa constrictor. If you were a bird, monkey, or even a wild pig, you would definitely be more fearful of a boa constrictor than a dinosaur. As humans, though, we're quite fortunate that we're not on their menu.
Manages to kill.
Boa constrictors live in tropical South America and Central America, and they grow up to around 13 feet long. At 100 pounds, they aren't exactly light snakes either. They are excellent swimmers, even if they live on land, and they spend a lot of time in mammal burrows and hollow logs. But don't let their seemingly docile nature fool you, for you still wouldn't want to mess with this beast. Their jaws are lined with hooked teeth that they use for grabbing onto their prey and holding onto it for dear life. But they don't just chow down with their teeth to end their victims' suffering. Instead, they squeeze them with their huge bodies until they can no longer breathe. Spotting a boa constrictor in the wild is not as easy as you might think, even with their size. They can camouflage to their surroundings, so they can be red, yellow, tan, or green, with different patterns like circles, lines, bars, and diamonds. Number 3. Yellow anaconda. Even though the yellow anaconda is far smaller than its relative, the green anaconda, that doesn't make it any less terrifying. It is still massive at around 14.4 feet and 77 pounds, and it is not an animal you'd want to stumble across in the wild. You would most likely find the yellow anaconda in southern South America, and in this area would hear them referred to as the Paraguayan anaconda. Like the green anaconda, it's not a venomous snake, but that doesn't mean you can act complacent if you come across them. They can still be dangerous. They will eat any vertebrate they can catch and wouldn't turn their nose up at anything from a fish or snake to a capybara or amphibian. If it's delicious, they'll have it. And it doesn't even need to be delicious because they don't chew their food. Yellow anacondas will swallow their prey whole, and will even unhinge their jaw to do so if it doesn't quite fit. Given the time it takes to digest large food, they may not eat for weeks or even months after a particularly large dinner. Number 2. Columbophus. Columbophus, or Snake of Colombia as it is also known, is an extinct snake that used to exist in Colombia. Traces of it were first found in the town of Los Mangos, and they were determined as a new species by 1977. With further research on the vertebrae, researchers have found that this snake would have been around 5 feet long, or of a similar size to a boa constrictor. So, given what we know about boa constrictors and their feeding methods, we're pretty happy these guys are no longer around. To be honest, we don't know a lot about the Columbophus. We know that it lived in Brazil and Venezuela, and that it existed during the Tortonian of the Miocene time period. Their diet was also carnivorous, so there's every possibility that if they were still around, humans would be at risk. Sure, the Columbophus might not be as dangerous as the black mamba or even a scrub python, but knowledge is power. And we just don't yet have the knowledge to know if these snakes were as scary as dinosaurs or not. Number 1. Sanaje indicus. The Sanaje indicus was an amazing snake, even if it's not around today. And we know this just by the fossils that have been found to date.
The fossils of Sanaja and the sauropod and the eggs bring them here to clean them.
Sanaje, which means ancient gape in Sanskrit, is from western India. It lived during the late Cretaceous period and taught us a lot about its time period. One of the best fossils of this snake was found in the nest of sauropod hatchlings. Researchers think that it had been raiding the nest, given that they would have been an easy snack for a snake that grows up to around 11 feet long. How it died there is unknown, but we can only imagine that Mama Dinosaur wasn't happy to come back to its babies being devoured by a greedy snake. The fossil also taught researchers that this snake didn't have a wide gape, so small food like eggs was its preference. It may also have raided the nests of other dinosaur species too. The Sanaje may not have been the biggest or scariest snake, but it's one we know had interaction with dinosaurs, and we think that's pretty cool. Slithery, slippery, stealthy snakes are either something you fear or something you love. Generally, there's no in-between, but we definitely underestimated how scary some can be, even more so than dinosaurs. Have you seen any of these snakes in person? Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on screen right now. See you next time!